Men cannot be without a sense of direction, and that direction is absent without clarity. How can men be true to their word if they do not understand why they need to be? How can a man be trusted if there aren't values placed in them to show genuineness? How can man provide and protect meanings that will be given soon in later episodes if they do not know what it means to be providers and protectors, or have the tools to ensure that who they are providing and protecting? The answer lies with what your father has taught you growing up. Certain values, certain customs, certain principles and morals which shape you to be a man, but most importantly, shape you to be a responsible man. A father who teaches you the values and principles of the home has been taught the values and principles by your grandfather, and so forth and so forth and so forth. It is something that has been taught through generations, and it is your responsibility to uphold the name of your family with these traditions. And you do that by passing it on to your son. What does it mean to be traditional? How do we define this? How do we measure this and link it to being a responsible man? It is not a word to be used lightly, and in the 21st century, when someone hears about a traditional man, they all but remove themselves from the room. So how do you, as a responsible man, or wanting to be a responsible man, hold your values, your morals, your principles, the first piece of your family's legacy, hope to be passed down further without being influenced by weakness, chaos, and poor decisions? So today I have asked a lot of questions in the opening, and I think we are going to have a very, very interesting, insightful, in-depth conversation about traditionalism and what it means to be traditional as a responsible man. Today, with me again, is my beloved friend, Shady. How you doing?
Good in yourself, Adip. Yeah, so a traditional man. You know, I was listening to you speak earlier, and you said if you look at generational upbringings, and sometimes you'll have that one man that's a coward and a drunkard, and unfortunately his son becomes an abuser, and then the grandson ends up in prison, right? Which is not the way we want to. That is not a traditional man at all. And we spoke about no sense of tradition and weakness. But I think let's start with what isn't a traditional man.
What isn't a traditional man? Okay.
And we've got to start from the beginning of time. Adam and Eve.
Okay.
So regardless of our faith, we all know the story. The snake, the apple. And when God said to Adam, do not eat of that, said to both Adam and Eve, don't eat from the tree of knowledge. But the first aspect was when Eve was enticed, Adam did not say no. He ate of the apple with her. So the temptation was there, and he succumbed to it. The second part was not taking accountability and actually throwing her under the bus. And that is what's not a traditional man. That is, I would say, that is what made Adam weak in his thinking. But on the upside, if you actually look at it, when they were expelled from the garden, the comforts that they had was gone. And this is where the traditional aspect comes in, because a man has to go in, plow the fields, work hard, and more often than not, it's his son that comes and helps him. Where the woman is the homemaker.
I would, with respect to the Adam and Eve story, so God provides Adam and Eve this paradise, this lovely land filled with, from what I remember,
a life of luxury.
A life of luxury, right? And he only had one rule. The rule was do not eat the fruit from the tree of knowledge. Okay.
Yes.
And Adam and Eve agreed, and I don't know how long they stayed, but they stayed for quite a long time. And what were the gifts that were given? They were given food, they were given shelter, they were given immortality, they were given beauty, they were given all of these things. Now all of these things create what would you say? It creates a sense of comfort. It creates a sense of, I do not have to create a sense of morals and values. They are given to me. I have my rules, I will follow it.
Yes.
Right? So I don't need to create an identity of myself. So I would first say that traditions create a sense of identity.
Yes.
Okay. But being the curious mind that Eve was, and being tempted by the serpent, you're saying that Adam didn't stop her and he didn't stop himself.
Yes, because he didn't have the self-control to stop himself.
Right.
And then the second aspect of it was he didn't take accountability for what he did.
Mm-hmm.
And we have to look at that. We have to look at the second part of it, because yes, we all make mistakes.
Mm-hmm.
Every person makes mistakes.
Mm-hmm.
But it's when you take accountability and you take stock and you say, you know what, I have messed up.
Mm-hmm.
Because instead, what did he say? It was the woman that tempted me.
And made me do it.
Yes. And what had happened was, who was put on earth first? It was the man.
Right.
And so he should have had the discernment to say that, you know what, I messed up.
So he should have had the experience and knowledge to say, you know what, don't do it.
Yes.
Do not be enticed by the serpent, and do not eat from the tree of knowledge. Okay. So, but in essence, he also grew curious as well. I mean, like I said, I do not know how long they had been in the Garden of Eden, and I'm sure they had been curious, but the rules of the house was, do not eat from the fruit. Do not put your hands in the cookie jar. So far, in that essence, but temptation was present.
Yes.
And when you feed into temptation, or when you fall into temptation, would you say that one person loses their sense of responsibility and loses their sense of respect for the rule, or at least the traditions of the house? So if God is the father and he set the rules in the house, did the children break the rules and therefore disrespected him and did it in a very irresponsible way?
Yes, because what's that age-old saying? Curiosity killed the cat.
Mm-hmm.
They were curious. They went in. They defied what the rule was. And unfortunately, man has had to go out, build things from scratch, to go and plow the fields. And we have the society today where obviously a lot of things were grown during hard times.
Mm-hmm.
And the tradition, and I will say now, the blessing in disguise was, with Adam going out there and building, it set the example for many other men to follow in the same way. Now again, we look at now what another irresponsible or untraditional man.
Okay.
And remember Samson and Delilah.
Not particularly.
Okay, so Samson. So in the Bible, Samson had long hair. He was the king of Israel, and he had all the women wanted to be with him, and all the men wanted to be him.
Mm.
So he was extremely strong. His hair was never cut. But again, going back, because his mother told him, don't ever tell them your secret. If you cut your hair, you're going to grow weak. But the arrogance comes in. The ignorance comes in to say, you know what, I am this embodiment of a man. And I don't need to listen to certain instructions. I don't need to listen to certain principles. And what happened? Unfortunately, he had his eyes put out. Towards the end of his life, he was restored again with his strength. But his eyes were still put out.
Okay.
And he was made a slave. So he went from the king to being a slave. It's an ignominious defeat.
Okay. I think what we're trying to, I think if I apply it now in real times, I think fathers, or at least parents, no, fathers have gone through a particular journey in life with their parents, right? Certain things that have happened to them that they don't want their children to experience. One of those things is hardship.
Yeah.
Now, I feel that fathers get into a position where when they say that I never want my child to experience hardship, it's taking away the experience of building tradition or building strength or building character, right? And if you are a sheltered human being, not given a lot of responsibility growing up as a child, because like I always say that a child is a blank canvas, right? You have to paint this canvas in the image of the following. They must be able to build character. They must be able to go out and thrive in society, even through hardship. And they must be able to create a sense of, well, their own traditions and rules of how they want to live their lives, well within also what they've been taught, right? So respect, morals, values, all of those things, right? And the moment I think that a father says to their child, I do not want you to experience any hardship, the child will not experience any hardship. But when he becomes an adult, he would wish that his father taught him the value of hardship. And I don't feel that a traditional man should hide their children from certain hardships. You know, like, well, if you built wealth, I don't expect your child to be poor, right? If you have the resources to provide them with certain things that will make their life easy, great. But the responsibility for it, for example, father purchases a car for his son, and there's no sense of responsibility around this car aside from drive and arrive safely. They don't have they don't teach them the value of filling up the car. They don't teach them the value of servicing the car. They don't teach them the value of cleaning the car. And what do you get? What do you think you would get, Shay?
Well, you're going to get a car that's not going to be working. A car that's always running empty.
Right?
And it's basically just something that was just given to me. I'm not going to water it. I'm not going to grow it. I'm not going to look after it.
Perfect. It's going to be a sense of thing that I got this. It's my dad's responsibility. It's not mine. That is not traditionalism at all, right? And you, as a father, you need to teach these certain values to the kid. It is as small as that, and that's why I say that the teachings of the father are subjective to the household. Right? And sometimes shared based on social norms of the current. So sometimes we have to take into account certain things that happen in society, and we have to apply it to our traditions in that essence.
Because you know, when you say you're sheltering a child, and it's so true, if a man's come from an extremely violent background,
right,
abusive uncle, maybe sexually molested as a child, under no circumstance in the traditional aspect of a protector to ensure that the child did not experience violence or sexual molestation, to name but a few. Mm-hmm. But if the father grew up poor, where they had to struggle to put bread on the table, then you should expose his child to that.
Right.
Because you're never too great to fall.
Mm-hmm.
And you could say to his child, listen, this is what's happened. We're not saying subject the child to it. But trauma is a good and a bad thing. And I think a traditional man, and that's why we have such a soft society with men today, is if that man had to struggle to take a taxi to work, maybe when your kid gets a bit older, don't let him go to school. Don't take him to school, let him take a taxi.
Okay.
Maybe go with him, guide him through it. so that it builds a sense of independence, because God forbid anything can happen. And when it's a difficult patch, how do you overcome it?
I think sometimes the traumas that generations face, or at least men face, is so powerful that the only thing that they do know is to take this sort of behavior into their generation, right? And bear in mind, I'm not taking away any accountability from people who commit such heinous things onto their kids and their wives, but it comes and it stems from a place where it's very overpowering. This, and it's through social learning as well. So I see my father being abusive, whether verbally or physically or emotionally or psychologically. There's so many ways of abuse that I don't look at what it does to the victim. I look at what he gets.
Yes.
Right? He gets rewarded for it. So if you want to take a chronic alcoholic and he doesn't have the money, so he will abuse his wife in some way or another, make them feel bad, make them feel terrible, or just be brutal and aggressive. What is the reward for that? He gets his alcohol. The son sees this, and may bear in mind, if blinded by certain aspects, of course, sometimes we are kids at that time.
It becomes the norm for us.
It becomes a norm, not because of anything else, but because of the reward. I will throw a tantrum. Abuse is nothing more but a tantrum in a short way, but a more intense, a more dangerous type of tantrum, right? And with that tantrum, I have accumulated my reward, my alcohol bottle, right? So as growing up, the child would do the same, but the same is on the other front line as well, a sheltered child, right? If they, at any point, a child loses direction in their values, they throw a tantrum. If the rule of the house is you cannot watch TV for more than an hour, then what happens? You throw a tantrum and you get 2 hours. You throw another tantrum, you get 5 hours. You throw that in its essence, if you don't have a hold on yourself as a man, and if you don't have a hold on your child as a man, you are not upholding the values of traditionalism. And irrespective of how normal or how the social structure is right now in its current form, like, you have to assign discipline to it, right? So if you had to look at the 21st century, you would notice that a lot of parents are scared of their kids. A lot of parents are scared to reprimand their kids, and it does become a thing. How do you impose, or how do you share traditions in that aspect if you are scared of your children?
Well, I think that's where woke cultures come in, unfortunately. Children do have rights, yes, and I'm all for disciplining your child. Growing up in a mixed race household, Indian mother, colored father, my goodness me, my mother would beat the holy hell out of me.
Right,
and didn't make any bones about it. But what did it do is it made me disciplined. It really taught me that, you know what, if my mother takes out the belt, or my mother smacks me, which she's done multiple times. I think I got more ass kickings by my mother than my father. Father would take the belt, my mother would, when mothers get angry, it's mayhem. You have to hide somewhere.
Right.
But what I felt is it didn't take anything away from it. If a parent disciplines the child, especially the father disciplines the child, I'm not saying hit the child with a fist. I will never say that. But if the son speaks up, and if the son is rude to his mother or to his sister, and his father punches him in the chest, then the father's not wrong. Because if you're showing violence towards your mother and your sister, what's that going to show to the next person? Because now you've become a bully. And as you said, you're throwing a tantrum now. I'm throwing a violent tantrum because I'm not getting my way. So I'm standing up, I'm saying, yeah, you can't touch me. As an adolescent teenager, you can't touch me because I've got rights. Then the father's well within his right, not necessarily to knock him out and blacken his eye, but to hit him in the chest. One shot, and he says, now you want to perform like a man, I'm going to treat you like a man. There should be absolutely nothing wrong with that. Because again, tradition is all about control. If he speaks to his son, the son ignores him. The first time, the second time, by all means, you're allowed to go up and punch the kid. If the kid is doing drugs, what are you going to say? Oh, son, you can't be doing drugs. You cannot spare the rod and spoil the child.
Okay, so two things that you mentioned that I will address, right? So I may disagree with you on the part of abuse, right, or any part of spanking, right, or in that element. I do believe that in order to oppose or impose traditionalism, you must have a rewarding consequence. I do agree with that part, right, or punishment of that nature. But the punishment must be something that will, of course, deter the child from doing the wrong again.
Yeah, but I'm saying, now you come in, you've got your son one day when you bless your son, and you say to your son, I need you to do this, this, and this. And he defies you, okay? So what do? You take away whatever console is out in the market. Let's say an Xbox One, or you take away his Xbox or his PlayStation.
Right.
Take away his cell phone alone, your cell phone rights. Then the mother tells him to do something, and he defies the mother again. And this time he uses aggression, but because he's bigger than his mother, are you going to say, son, I've asked you once, I've asked you twice, please listen. Now, I'm not going to sit back and I'm not going to tolerate that. And I don't think that modern men should tolerate if their son gets out of line. My friend, wonderful friend of mine, and I got the shock of my life, took the belt and he whacked his son the one day. In front of me. And I looked and I said, but dude, I never expected you to do that. And he said, we used to get our asses handed to us. Our mothers and our fathers, mainly our fathers, would come in and hit us when we were naughty. They'd reprimand us first. The second time, if you're out of line, you should be disciplined. Sometimes the discipline should be physical. I caught some crap many years ago. My father beat the holy hell out of me. And I never pulled that stunt again. Why? Because of the ramifications of it. Because if you don't, again, the child goes and bullies a girl. What happens if he hits a girl at school? Are you going to sit back and say, oh, there's issues at home, we can't? No, the child is going to be expelled. But if the father enforces it immediately, and if he sees the son going wrong and he disciplines him, and sometimes he disciplines him physically, he's not going to do it again. He's not going to do it again because he knows there's a ramification to it. Because if he goes to juvie, there might be someone bigger than him.
Sure, okay. Like I said, the reward and punishment needs to be related to the action that was caused against the traditions of the household, right? And coming into the 21st century, right? In this, how do we build responsible boys? First of all, as a responsible man, and it is tough to use that way of the old, right? Why do I say it's tough? Right? Like you said, children have rights. They do have rights, right? And they can go to the police and say, you know what, my father spanked me, right? And it was an order of discipline. You've never hit this child before in your entire life, right? This was the first time because things got so out of hand and so out of control that you had to do it, irrespective of what it is, just like you said, though. Under no circumstances would the policeman aside with the father, because it is within the child's best interest, and that is the law. So now we take all of that into account, and kids are very, very savvy with tech and stuff and reading and the law and things. What would be a suitable punishment other than what would be a suitable punishment for disrespect other than beating the child?
Well, this is going to sound funny and it's going to sound wrong. But then we've got to go all North Korea on people.
North Korea.
Yes, and bear with me with what I'm about to say.
Okay.
Labor.
Yes.
So you're going to say to the kid, if the kid is naughty, you got a nice big ass yard. You're not going to phone the garden boy because we've made it easy now. You said, oh, you didn't listen. Oh, you didn't want to study. Okay. You're going to go and work. You'll have the garden boy there, but the garden boy is not going to help you. He's going to supervise. And any shit that you catch on, he's going to come and report it back. So now he's got to work in that heat. He's going to have his water. He's going to have his food. But is he really going to sit back and think, yes, this is actually what I want to do? Because he's taken away from his comforts now. He can't watch, say he's a football fan or Formula 1 fan. He can't watch his favorite sport. And it just happens to be at that time, he cannot watch TV. His friends are going to play online. They're going to play Forza online. No, we can't play online today because he has to clean the yard because he's got to work.
Yeah.
The manual labor aspect of it is, and then you make it, you add salt to the wound. Instead of him cutting the grass with the lawnmower, you make him cut it with the grasses.
With the grasses, okay.
Yes. So you make it difficult for him.
Right. Okay. So you make it a scenario where the punishment is, well, first of all, related to the severity of his disrespect.
Yes.
Right? A healthier way of doing it is making him do certain things around the house, creating a chore-based kind of thing. Okay. I remember watching this video where a father took his son to the barber store because he bullied a child who was bald because of cancer. And when he took the child to the barber, he ordered the barber to cut his hair fully out. That was one. The second one was a man teaching his daughter a lesson for bullying a girl at school. And when he caught wind of it, he didn't protect his child, so to say, but he got into the car and he made his daughter walk to school. So I think those are certain things that were necessary.
Yeah, because the punishment's got to fit the crime.
Yes.
I'm not saying if a child breaks a window, right? I'm not saying take your fist and beat the child. I'm not, under no circumstances will I encourage that. But what I will encourage is, if that child has been a bully at school and he's bullied someone, like the kid with the cancer, what his father's done is the correct thing. If he's bullied a kid because he felt like bullying the kid, then I as the father, I'm going to bully him now. And I'm going to see if he's going to like it, especially if it's a bigger kid. Right? We get different types of bullying. The verbal bullying, the physical bullying. And let's face it, bullying is bullying. There's a difference with banter and there's a difference with bullying. But it comes on to the onus of myself as a responsible man, when the traditions passed down from us, to ensure that our generation behaves better than what we did. Right?
Yeah. So do it better. Don't create trauma in such a way that we flinch at every moment that we get, but do it in such a way that that the punishment creates meaning, not terror. So, and then the second thing that you mentioned was, I still have it in the back of my. I don't feel traditions are a sense of control, but a sense of a way of life, a cultural type of aspect. It fits within the household. So, like, maybe not a control. Okay, there are rules to the house, right? And this brings me to the categories of traditionalism that I sort of brought out to the way, right? So the first category I have here is the family's way of life. So the father's family's way of life, the place where he was born. right? And there are elements in that category where he needs to master genuinely, right? And when I say genuinely a mastery, it doesn't necessarily mean it is in the absence of mistakes. Mistakes will happen, but they will always come back to the core teachings, right? So I say that first and foremost, within the realm of the family's way of life, he has to put God before himself. A responsible man who is respected and respectful will understand the word of God. He will practice the word. He will spread the word to the rest of his family when he is older, and most importantly to his children. A responsible man knows his limitations when it comes to the following of religion, and will try to eradicate that limitation from his children through the word of God, right? He will not impose the word, right? He will not impose the word of God to manipulate his family, children, and inner circle to fulfill his duties because of his limitations and because of his shortcomings. To use the word of God in the form of manipulation to obtain personal favor in any living aspect is a trait of a weak, disrespectful man that cannot be responsible.
Because I think another form of traditionalism, right, and our great friend Sila always mentions it, is when you eat at the Al buffet, right, the losses. So anything from business to your personal life, there's always a form of loss. And a lot of the time, we spoke about, again, tradition and going back. You can always be a worse off version of yourself, or you can be a better version of yourself. And the traditional aspect of every man that you teach all their kids is when you lose, is how to get back up again.
Okay.
Because I think a lot of the time when a kid loses at something, especially you get bad winners, Chelsea fans, and you get bad losers. I'm taking shots here, Liverpool fans. But when you take the loss, it's not the end of the world. It's not a train smash, because you do get stumbling blocks in your life.
Sure.
Right? And as responsible men, this is what we need to teach our next generation. Because a lot of the time, a child will, get that participation trophy, as we spoke about in
our previous podcast,
with competition. But what good is it if he doesn't want to participate again because he lost? And say like, oh, I'm going to give up. You can't give up after one try. I mean, Colonel Sanders was 68 when he got his break. How many L's did he eat before KFC took off?
He had quite a bit. I think a lot of good founders did get to a position where they realized certain weaknesses and certain traits of limitation, and they worked with what they had. And that's the part where I say is that like in with regards to taking losses, men do take a lot of losses, and they must come to be a dangerously confident, respectable man. They must be able to understand that loss is not unfamiliar, right? And that's a tradition or a teaching that at least must be done in a family. You must be able to accept loss. If you cannot accept loss, you will forever think that the world owes you something, and that if you teach your children that aspect, they will forever feel entitled to that aspect.
Hence why I use the example of Samson. Right, strongest man. Yeah, he was the strongest man in the Bible. Had everything. Sense of entitlement. He knew that nobody can touch him until he gave away his secret. And again, deviating from obedience, because traditionalism is again you say, it's walking with God.
Yeah.
Another thing is, it was funny when I had this
Yeah.
conversation with a very, we can say, potential love interest. We'll call her Margaret for all intents and purposes. Now, I love Margaret to bits. Nice face. But we spoke about traditional men, and I decided to take the piss out of her with this. And I said to her, oh, you know what, today's traditional man, he takes his wife's surname. When he goes to sit down, she has to pull the chair out for him. And her words absolutely stunned me, because I absolutely love what she said. She says, what shit is this? Because I don't pull out the chair for you when we go out. I don't open the door for you unless you're coming into my house.
Mm.
But generally speaking, you open the door for me, you pull my chair out, you protect me. That is a traditional man. You're a gentleman towards me, not the other way around. You're respectful towards me as I am respectful towards you.
So you were trying to implement banter in such a way, and she told you no.
Well, she took because what I normally like to do, as you know, I like to take the piss out of people.
Mm-hmm.
And on Sunday, she did it to me.
Yeah.
And I walked home, and I remember walking home, and I was laughing about it. Because when Margaret said to me, and she said in a nice colored accent, "Hey man, moenie kak praat." Right? And I was like sitting, and it just dawned on me that yes, we always say that women don't want this traditional man, but we're looking at the 1% of those women. We're looking at the influences that we see on social media.
Right.
Not the ones who are not socially media staffed.
I think we come down to that lady. I think her name is Lady J. Where she has a little insert of
yes, yeah, I know you're talking about.
And then she's like, oh really? And then she gives you a little shorthand trend about what men should be like, and don't follow this kind of stuff, right? And it comes back to the thing about, again, where men, well, in the realm of the first category of they first and foremost, they put God before themselves, is that they will not teach the word of God if they know that they have temptations. So certain elements of whatever book that that is in that household is, I am tempted, I therefore will not teach this to you. But as I get older and wiser, I may be able to do this. But he does teach this following thing: avoid the things that will bring certain downfalls. So for example, I don't know in religious texts, but certain elements of narcotics use is forbidden.
Yeah, or basically like in the scriptures, in I think it's the book of Acts, if I'm not mistaken, the wages of sin leads to death.
Right. And then in certain parts of the Gita, there's this, you don't eat meat. But we do, right? We do. And if you fall into that temptation of liking meat, you cannot teach your kids you have to eat vegetables. Yeah. Right? So that's the thing that I say. So like within the Word of God, or whatever book that is there, it's sort of the foundations of your traditions that you're going to pass on from generation to generation. You will realize that in your household that there are certain temptations, and those temptations are unfortunately something you cannot teach if it's against the Word of God. Well, it's going to be passed on as a way of life in the house, but it goes against certain books, and it's fine, because it's something that you do not teach from the Word of God. In any way, it's a manipulative kind of thing. And I think that if he knows, if a responsible man knows his temptation, therefore he will not manipulate the Word, and therefore he will not impose this manipulated word to his children for his personal gain. And therefore I find that a trait of a responsible man.
Because I don't know if you've heard of Cyrus the Great.
No.
So Cyrus the Great was, well, he's a modern, well, not a modern day leader, but it was many years ago he lived. But he was known as the champion of human rights.
Okay.
So he was born in 600 BC. He died in 530 BC. So he was born in Persia, which is now modern day Iran. But what Cyrus always did was he believed in his decree, one man, one woman. That was the start. Equality amongst people. He was, as the Persians would call him, he was a champion of the people, champion of human rights. That is the kind of traditional man. I mean, again, we look at it, they say chivalry is dead. There's nothing wrong with a guy opening up a door for his partner. How often have we failed to do that? Let's look at that small example, opening the door for your partner when you get into the car.
Well, I would say that's one of the second aspects that I was teaching, and it's called the rituals of the household. And growing up, I always observed this opening of the door thing, and I did ask my dad, okay, why do you do this? And he says it's a responsible thing to do, right? You have to ensure the comfort of the other before ensuring the comfort of yourself. That's why you open the door to the lady, so she can get into the... Think about a winter night. You're taking your wife or your partner out on a date. She's dressed up very well for you, but some of her clothes, well, whatever she's wearing has an element of light fabric, or she's wearing a dress that just has straps and she's wearing this coat. And your responsibility, number one, is to have the car warm. The second responsibility is to ensure that when you stop parallel to her parkway, you open the door for her so she feels warm. Because you've been driving 20 minutes in an air conditioner, so it's fairly right that she has the opportunity to get warm as well. You take the walk around the car and you sit down as well, and it's perfectly fine. And that is the elements of respect.
You forgot the third one.
Which is?
If it's a really cold breeze, you take your jacket off and you give it to her.
Right, 100%, right? So there's that kind of thing as well. If she forgot her jacket, or I don't know if sometimes it has been a thing about testing a man and his chivalry, in the essence that women deliberately don't go, without with a jacket. I don't know if it's a deliberate thing where they enter a party or a venue or something without a jacket, so that when they do see their partners, I'm not talking about some random guy, but they do see their partners who's wearing this big puffy jacket, he will take it off and give it to her. I don't know if it's a testing or it's a thing of cuteness. I'm not too sure.
I think it's both, because when she wants to feel warm, she wants to feel protected.
Yeah.
We're not saying in the middle of winter just wear a t-shirt. Not all of us are Jack Norris. But if he's wearing a long sleeve t-shirt underneath his jacket,
yes,
by all means he would have still been warm. And if he sees them get out and he gives her his jacket, now that's a form of someone taking off the shirt of his back to help someone else. That is a form of tradition in a sense, because you're putting your needs aside for someone else. A traditional man is also, let's look at it like this: it's a servant.
To serve, not to be a servant.
Well, you're as a father, as a husband and a father, are you not a servant?
I serve.
Yes, you serve, but you serve to keep your kids happy. You serve to provide a roof over their heads. That's what a parent does. A parent's job is to serve. They
serve,
right? Because as kids, you want to be pampered. Look at a baby. A baby doesn't do anything. Yeah. It's like a newborn puppy. Everybody's around it. Everybody wants to play with it. Everybody wants to comfort it. As soon as that puppy loses its cuteness, they know, okay, now we've got to start working.
Well, look, when you have a child, it's not like you don't stop working. You do. You've been working. You will work yourself as a parent till the day that you pass on. right? But you will never stop worrying about your child, right? So the work begins from birth,
Yes.
right? In the act of service, right? In the act of service, you provide, you protect, and like I said, this is something we're going to talk about in later episodes, providing and protecting. But it's an act of service from a space of joy and happiness,
Yes.
and from a space of teaching, or from a place of servitude.
But I think servitude constitutes love. Because I'm not saying spoil the child. I'm not saying spoil the child, because notice something, when someone becomes really old and senile, and we've seen it unfortunately with our grandparents, then the role is now reversed, where the child will now go in and serve the mother or the father or the grandparent. But all the years that person was serving you. So it's a principle that was been passed from one generation to another. And sometimes you'll see that if the person is old and in a wheelchair, that grandchild will come in, oh, you know what, my grandmother or my grandfather did so much for me over the course of the years. Now they're struggling to get water. Okay, you know what, screw it, let me go in, I'm going to do it. Now you're doing it out of servitude, but you're doing it out of a place of love. Because being a servant is not necessarily a bad thing. It's coming out of a place of love, because it's also coming from trust.
Okay, if you put that type of definition behind that, then okay, I can see it. But again, I would rather use the word of active service. Maybe it's a pride thing that I'm feeling. I'm not too sure, but I'm well aware of that in that aspect.
I think maybe the usage of the word servant.
Yes, and that's what I say, right? And that comes down to the traditions of the house, right? Now it's a very subjective thing, right? Traditions of the house is any value or principle or moral that has been taught to you as a child growing up within your parents' house, right? So for example, chivalry, for example, acts of service or servitude. And I say it in the element of, if you do grow up and you start to notice that your parents are old and they can't do the actions that they could do once, it is your turn. Okay, fine. Then certain morals and values and teachings that they have taught you, you will do the same for them, right? It's something. It could also be a thing about rite of passage.
Yes.
Right. So there are certain rites of passage passages that have happened in your life, in my life. What would be yours?
Well, I think mine was when I actually left home at 15. And I made a choice, because I said I wanted to spend the twilight years with my late grandfather. God bless his soul. Unfortunately, when I got to PE, he was no more there.
Oh.
But the beauty of it was that I stayed with my granny. My granny looked after me. But there were things that I didn't do at home that I was so grateful for that I did in PE. The first one at 15, and I can't believe I'm saying this, was actually making my bed.
So a rite of passage for you would be learning how to make your bed.
Learning to make the bed, cleaning the garden, cutting the grass,
frying an egg.
Let's not go there. But I don't want to burn the house down. But it taught me a lot of other chores.
Sure.
I would go out. My granny would say to me, "Listen, you haven't watered the grass." And I looked at her the first time it happened, and I didn't have my parents there to back me up now. So I took the hose pipe. I made a complete hash job of it the first time. Granny took the piss out of me, and she said to me, "No, you didn't do it right. The next time, this is how you water it." She showed me how to adjust the sprinkler. But because I had it soft, because we had a gardener that would do everything, my granny said, "Okay, get the lawnmower." It wasn't a trauma test. It was me also doing something, because you're sitting at home watching TV the whole day. It's not going to do you any good.
Right. So I think
take the dogs for a walk. Those small things, and eventually it came out to say that, that was my rite of passage, because it was things that my father wanted to teach me, but like Samson, I saw it, but I had to have my eyes put out in order to actually see
You're right.
what the value in it was.
Right.
Because when I went to PE, I was on my own. Yes, I had male family members there, but they also had their own kids to look after. So there it was I to fend for myself. But when my eyes were put out, then I started to see things, and I started to see the bigger picture.
100%. So there are certain traditions in the household that that we consider a rite of passage, and some of those teachings, of course, I will not speak for other cultures, but there are certain teachings that are considered immoral of these days, and how do we implement that in the 21st century is something that is very important. I think that I think when we have the conversation about rite of passage, we'll try and make it multicultural to bring it in full depth. But I also feel that as a responsible man, right? As a responsible man growing up in your parents' house, you will notice certain values and certain teachings and certain principles that were used in the form of manipulation. And I feel that as a man growing up, these are the things that you need to remove when you go into your house. So the second category of traditionalism is the way of your house.
Yes.
Right? And the first thing that I will say to you is that a man is not an island when he's married to his spouse. Right? And a man who is godly and cultured masters the art of being open to listening to his spouse, and she too brings the aspects of tradition of her home. Right? And the both of you all effectively need to come together, and you need to identify and find neutral grounds on what the traditions of your personal house is going to be, your house, right? And a responsible man will take note of that, meet her halfway, and find a resolve if traditions clash. Now, I think that's a very important thing as well. So when you're starting to put traditions into your own house, yes, you may have very strong traditions as well that you want to bring. You have filtered out traditions or teachings that were used for manipulation purposes only, but she has also. And I think it's very important to listen to your spouse, because she too comes from a space of tradition, and it must be respected. What do you think about that?
Yeah, because I fully agree with that, because behind every great man is a great woman.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of, what's that saying, a happy life, happy wife.
Okay.
I don't believe in that aspect. I believe that traditional women, not these boss bitches and boss babes, but women that are born in good households, without the sense of entitlement, know that there are certain sacrifices that they have to make. They don't get, in my opinion, they don't get enough plaudits for it. I sat with another guy, it's an elderly Jewish guy, who was sitting in the sauna at the gym.
Right.
And he said to me that because he was working all the time in his life, he had 4 kids. His wife was the one that kept the traditions alive, and they worked together. And he said if it wasn't for his wife, neither he or his children would be where they are today, would be successful.
And that's a very important thing that you say, right? A spouse will support the man in following the traditions of the house. So as long as, well, the traditions are sort of dualed and compiled, consolidated rather.
Because I don't know if you ever watched the movie Grown Ups.
With Adam Sandler?
Yes.
Yeah.
So remember Chris Rock's character is a stay-at-home husband.
Yes.
And okay, it's not traditional for a man to be a stay-at-home husband, but look at how he elevated the kids also. But a traditional man also shows a bit of emotion, because he started speaking and he complained a little bit that his wife didn't pay attention to him. And we as men, when we have a busy day at work, what do you want to do? To come home, take your shoes off, have a beer, and watch whatever's on TV. You don't actually pay attention to your spouse, because we've grown up in this corporate environment where everything needs to be, well, we need to make a profit on everything that we have. We always have to see a return on investment. A marriage is also a return on investment.
That's a very important thing that you say over there, and I keep saying that to well, not necessarily men, my clients. I say to them that the pursuit of a career is not the only thing that brings purpose and value to your life. It's not the thing that, and it's not solely the thing that will help you achieve your goals. If you want to pursue a career, perfect, 100% go for it. But you also have to pursue the following. You have to pursue the happiness and the joy of your household. And it's not limited to bringing money into the house. You have to bring your attention as well into the house, or at least transparency to say, today's one of those days where I can't give you my full attention. I am in a space. Two things will happen. They will leave you alone because they respect the fact that you are lonely. Not lonely. They will respect the fact that you are a person who likes to introspect. But the second thing is, they will show you a sense of support. And they will show you a sense of support by not giving you a hard time, or not necessarily trying to give you a hard time, but rather giving you that space where you don't have to talk about work. You don't have to talk about family politics. You can play Monopoly, and they will have fun with doing it. And I always say in this case over here, and in this element, the same must apply to a man, a traditional man in that essence. Your wife comes home. It's the 21st century. Again, I will keep repeating that. She works too.
Yes.
Right? And even if she is a housewife, she works too.
She works just as hard.
Yeah, exactly. And the point that I drive is that some days she can't give you her full attention, and it is your duty, tired or not, to give her the attention, to keep the home, well, sort of close, right, and structured. And the roof has to be structured all the time. And I always say this as well. There cannot be any opposition or conflict in the teachings of tradition, right? Whether it's values or principles or morals. It will create confusion, and it will create entitlement, and it will create recklessness, right? And this, in the eyes of society, you will have cultured children, but at home you would have uncultured behavior, uncultured children. And that is a reflection of a man. Well, the man will see himself at this point as weak, disrespectful, and disrespected. Weak in the sense that he can't control his kids. Disrespectful to his lineage or his generations or fathers, and he is disrespected because nothing can ever come to. He doesn't have control of his house in that element. And
would it be fair? Would it be fair to say that a man who's highly successful is disrespected by his kids because he always spoils them? And we're talking highly successful in his career and in his finances, but spoils his kids.
Look, again,
they haven't worked for anything. He's built up a business. They've decided to drop out of university. And then he's put them into certain...
It's a sign of a man who does not want to teach his children some level of traditionalism, right? You can teach if you can teach your son to open a door, I'm talking about the man that you described. If you can teach your son how to open a door, but not the reasons why, he's doing it just because he has to.
Yes.
Right? If there's no meaning to what you teach, then it is nothing. Right? And that's the thing, that when you spoil a kid, there comes a point, give your kids whatever you did not have, but help them understand the value of why they have it. Don't give them the thing of oh no, when I was growing up, I never had any of those things. They don't care to hear about that. They want to know why you got it for them on a more grander scale of it, right? So, for example, I grew up with, I was that entitled child, right? I was that entitled child. I had everything given to me, and there was a lot of terrible, horrible things that you can ask your brother-in-law. You can ask him. You can. He was my neighbor, and the one thing that I know for certain was that I knew no consequence. Right? I could do whatever I wanted, and I knew no consequence. And things changed in the house, and then I suddenly realized what my dad was trying to share with me, what my mom was trying to share with me, and I'm only feeling it now. So, was it painful? Is it painful? Yeah, sure, it is. It's super painful to realize that comfort disappeared. But it's also good to know that I can thrive in the absence of comfort, and I know the value of the things that I buy, and the things that I own, and the things that I earn, and it's very tough sometimes, but no less it's something. There is that part where a boy goes on a journey where he does not want to listen to the teachings of the father because he knows too well.
Prodigal son.
Right. And the eyes must be plucked out in order for you to see that life does not work in that way. You were sheltered. You were in paradise when your father was earning. And now you have to go out into the world and you have to see it in that essence. So, which comes down to the final category that I'll share with you, is that a traditional man is autonomous. And I say he's able to filter out traditions of that have manipulations, and he promotes free thinking. He promotes free thinking in the sense that he understands societal norms. He understands that reward and punishment work differently, and he understands that in order for him to give his child the best sort of norm, the best sort of upbringing from a traditional sense, it must be done in a way where he allows the child to go on the journey and then come to the realization on his own. Hence the rites of passage, the enabling them to do chores, enabling them to do acts of service. All of those things build character and autonomy.
I think the first rites of passage actually is, I love how you put it. You know, it's when a child starts walking. I've seen it now with my nephew. Bugger doesn't want to stop walking now. Doesn't want you to pick him up. The second rite of passage, and I think this is probably the nicest one, and unfortunately this is where we've deviated. Remember when you used to ride your bicycle?
Oh yes.
You had the balancing wheels.
Yes.
And you ride the bicycle, and then over time, I think when you got about 4 or 5, you take the balancing wheels off.
Yeah.
In the beginning, your father or whoever would hold the saddle.
Yes.
And then they'd let you ride, and you'd wiggle and you'd fall.
Yes.
Now, a lot of the time, the child would cry. And I cried, but I was on concrete, so it wasn't on the grass, which I was more appreciative because of the terrain. And it taught me you have to get up. No one's going to come and rescue you if you're sitting there crying all the time. And eventually got up, started riding the bicycle. But then I realized once I got the hang of that bicycle, I didn't need my father or anybody else to hold the saddle, because now I was able to stand on my own feet.
Right.
And it's as simple as that, as a rite of passage. Because you'll find that a lot of people, a lot of kids 7, 8, 9, 10 don't want to be, they're still on the training wheels. It's the same like being potty trained. My friend's daughter, she was, how old is she now? She's 10. She was 5.5 and she was still in a diaper.
Okay.
And the one day she came to sit with me, and she sat on my lap, and I was like, and I asked the mother, is she still on a nappy? And she said, yes. And then what did that child do? I looked and said, she's not potty trained. The mother said, we're trying to potty train and she doesn't want to learn. She went to the toilet. She told the mother, please take me to the toilet. She took off her nappy that day and she said, now I only want to wear underwear. I don't want to wear the nappy anymore. So the rites of passage, as you were saying, is it's those small victories. Because again, talking about losing a lot, when a child starts crawling and he gets up and he falls,
yes,
or she gets up and she falls,
yes,
that's the first form of loss at the buffet, because you're not going to just stand up and walk.
Yeah.
And then getting on your bicycle or getting potty trained, I think that's the next logical step.
Yes.
You're still going to wet yourself, but eventually you're going to become self-sufficient.
100%.
And then
it is that matter of autonomy that we're talking about.
Yeah, and then riding of a bicycle, but without any of those principles that are enforced on us by our mothers and our fathers. But now we're specifically looking at on the father aspect of it. So the child knows now walking. It's going to be running soon. But if can you imagine you keep the child in a pram the whole day? Oh no, we can't let the child's feet touch the ground.
Well, that's the thing, right? So a responsible man will realize certain mishaps, certain let's say irrational behavior at this point, and he will go home, he will analyze, and he will come back and say, you know what, listen, this is going to go against teaching a child certain things that he needs to know. And this is why I say that responsible traditional men need to have a spouse that will be on their side to actually come together and actually find a resolve. If you're making decisions by yourself in a married household, something does not look right. And I think I would say, as we're going into the spanner in the works with Sila, who's just arrived, yawning. I would say that no responsible man will want to cause harm to his family, his spouse, and his children. He must teach them the value of hardship and hard work and the rewards that come out of it. It's just what you said, right? A responsible man must try his level best to understand the traditions of his spouse and apply it in the household, irrespective of what it is. If it fits the narrative of ensuring that the child will grow up being traditional, being respectful, and being respected, it must be applied. He must do his level best to destroy the following things from his child's life, and that is tantrums, entitlement, and being disrespectful and uncultured. And that is what I say traditions are there for, in that element. What would you like to say in closing?
I would love to say, you spoke earlier about board games.
Yeah.
Right, and I just happened to think about it now. Monopoly. Yes, I've played as the bank. I've stolen money from the bank. I'm not going to lie. When I played Monopoly.
What is new?
Right.
From being a banker.
But notice something. When parents play Monopoly with their kids, you go and get your property and you start buying things.
Right.
Notice that you have to also get the money in. There needs to be an income stream. But notice how angry the child will get if they have to pay income tax. So past return,
interest.
Yeah, you pass return, you get the 20,000 rand.
Yeah.
But then as soon as you land next to Durban Airport, income tax 10,000.
100%.
And that teaches your child already, you know what, there's going to be a loss. Or the dreaded card that we've all gotten playing Monopoly. You are being audited for those houses and the hotels.
Please pay
right. an X amount. Sometimes you realize you don't have the money.
Yeah.
So what do? You have to sell off the asset. Now, it teaches, that's why I prefer to have board games with family time, board games and reading over playing a game, playing Call of Duty. Call of Duty you play in your spare time.
Right.
But when it comes to family time, that now, because the father now has to see how that child is going to respond to that situation. I'm not a believer in reacting, but it's more responsiveness.
I think there was this game that we were playing, my sister, her husband, and her 2 kids, where I think I dominated the entire Monopoly table, and I dominated it so well that I think I had both the get out of jail free cards, but every time I picked up the card about go to jail, go directly, I literally went there to chill. And they asked me, it's like, why aren't you using get out of jail free cards? And it's like, I don't want to pay. I don't want to pay in that if I land in your space. I want 4 rounds to myself where I don't have to dice and have the risk of paying for that stuff. So they found it cheating. I actually sold them my get out of jail free cards. But when they understood the trend that I was going, because I owned like 70% of the board, they were like, no, I'll stay in jail, it's okay. But speaking of which, Sila is here. He has joined. He has another volume of questions and statements that he wants to put out, so we're going to have a little break. And we're going to get back into it as in a bit. To hear from Sila and his spanners in the works. Okay, welcome back to another episode of the Society of Responsible Men. And now we come to that part of the segment where we have Sila, who has been taking down notes and creating a volume of questions and statements, which I call the spanner in the works of our interpretations and definitions of traditionalism in this episode. So, Sila, on to you.
All right. Thanks for having me back in this bonus round. I will start with you guys talked a lot about men with families, and a lot about how they should be in marriages, that sense of traditionalism. So now I want to ask you guys about the men who aren't in those categories and what you think traditionalism would look like for them. I'm talking about the single guys, the guys who don't have children, that kind of thing.
So that comes to the category of the culture of the way of life of the house. So your parents' house. So there are certain teachings and values and principles that you will learn in your household or have learned, and that's what you need to try and practice. That's what you need to try and practice as a responsible man who's who is single or at least in a relationship. And he's trying to get to that point where he wants to get married and set his life up, so to say.
But how do we deal with that if it's a lifelong bachelor? Well, I think that's what Sila is asking.
Not necessarily. Let's say just before you get to that point, right? Before you get to the wife and the kids, or let's say you're not in a relationship, because let's face it, today's dating scene is a shit show.
Well, like Shady said, there's only 1% of the women that think in a certain way, and we call them our influencers, and those that want to do whatever they can to show you that men are not all that. We know we're not all that. We are just trying to get through life in a way, but in a traditional sense. So the first thing I'll say is that we need to learn and practice the way of our parents' house. So the teachings that are brought there. And the second thing is autonomy, which is the last thing I mentioned. A man needs to decide for himself what is applicable and what is not. And as long as it doesn't fall within the realm of terror, being malicious, or all of those things, then I would say that they are practicing traditionalism well.
Because I like to answer your question then, because there's a friend of mine who's a social worker. So obviously it's an awful job, especially when you see these orphan kids.
Mm-hmm.
And I asked him that day, I asked him, like, how do you deal with kids that come from broken homes? And he said, because he's the only male on the premises, he actually sits and he has one-on-ones. And start with the boys first, especially the elder boys that come in. Mm-hmm. And he'll sit and have a one-on-one and take the time to actually spend with them. And I asked him, don't you want to have kids one day? He says he doesn't want to have kids because these are his kids. And you look at it also like, it's not necessarily always the parents, because let's face it, we've got some awful parents in the world. People who do not deserve to be called parents. And it also takes the ownership and think of another man to come in and groom, not having these grooming gangs, but actually groom these kids to become a better version of themselves. So if this guy is single, and I love to allude to the CEO one, where he's decided, I'm not going to have kids, I'm not going to get married, I'm going to build my entire life to my business. He will see the youngster, the young 22, 23-year-old working late on a Friday night. And the first thing he'll go and ask him is, where's your girlfriend? This thing can be done Monday morning, or this thing can be done on Monday. You don't necessarily have to work through the weekend to make your girlfriend starve. I chose this life, you don't have to choose it.
Okay. So it strikes me as there seems to be sort of a broad couple of traits that traditional men should possess, right? Irrespective of household and how they were brought up by their families. So to your point, Shady, with kids who don't have parents, so orphans, that type of situation, they should also be able to become traditional men, right? Without the teachings of their household. So my next question then is, just to summarize, what are these traits of a traditional man?
Manners, to be cultured, to acknowledge that you are...
When you say to be cultured, just quickly, what does that mean?
To be cultured in the sense that you are in a position where you do no harm, where you respect your elders. I'm just giving examples. Where you show respect to people who are conversing with you, know when you lose, and lose gracefully, effectively, and that's effectively what a cultured man is. So those kind of things that I would say.
I would actually say cultured, and if we're going to look at culture now, some of the nicest people I've met, especially when it comes to family men, are farmers.
Mm-hmm.
Very cultured individuals, because it instills that sense of tradition. And I would remember I had a good friend of mine, he's late now, Jan. So Jan owned a pig and chicken farm, but very cultured individual. Disciplined, was at work on time every morning, could drink brandewijn like it was no one's business, okay? But it's part of being a farmer. But the sense that the kids, he'd wake them up, the boys would wake up at 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock in the morning, go and check the fields, plow the grass, whatever they had to go and plow the fields, whatever they had to go and do. And then still get ready for school, come home from school, do tractor, do their routes and do their runs. And they were kept away from a lot of modern day distractions.
Mm-hmm.
And I like to use that word, modern day distractions. It was more homely. It was a homely environment where if you look at a kid, and I asked the farmer this the one day, I said, why wouldn't you want your daughter to marry someone from the city?
Uh-huh.
And he said, the city guys are a bunch of pussies. Pardon for my French.
That brings me to my next question, right? How do you think technology has affected traditionalism?
Horribly. I love technology, right? Don't get me wrong. I love
I love my PlayStation.
right? So if you look at my desk right now, it's full of tech. At home, there's full of tech, but there is a limit to what that I put to the amount of tech use, right? So whether I'm going on to social media, or whether I'm going on to the internet, or whatever the case may be, there is that limitation that I have, and I never deter from it. It is something that, again, I am not autonomously instilled in myself to say that if I am spending a lot of time on my devices, my social media accounts and so forth, I'm being irresponsible, and therefore I'm not doing the things that I'm trying to teach or trying to instill, or what we are trying to do with men in that essence. And technology is a very bad space to be in this kind of scenario. In fact, I'll go back to the early 2000s, and I will say to you that, you know, when I had an iPod, fine, I knew that I had a limitation to that. Internet usage was limited to dial-up. I was happy with a 3310 or a colored screen cell phone with very limited use of the internet. It was better.
And I agree with you with that, because I think what the worst part is today, and I was a bit embarrassed. A few years ago, I bought a pork belly, and I didn't know how to make it. And the first thing my dumbass did was to say to my father, "Oh no, go and YouTube it." My father looked at me and was like, "What is YouTube?" Because when we do things, we put it on. If it's not on TV, he's not watching it off a screen. And eventually, my father figured it out on his own. And a lot of the time now, when kids try to do something, instead of going to their father, now your bicycle breaks, your pedal falls off. Oh, let's go to YouTube.
Yeah.
Now, the father is robbing the child of that time that they're going to spend together. Because if the father doesn't know how to fix it and the child doesn't know how to fix it, that's fine. Both of you can resort to YouTube.
But do it together.
Look at the greatest joy. I'm not a big fan of the Fast and the Furious franchises, but look at it like this. When Dominic is fixing his car, his son is there to watch.
I do agree with that part. So like, if you talking about the thing where, and this is the part where I don't appreciate absent fathers who feel that work is everything, and when I come home and the weekend I'm just supposed to do nothing. It actually propels children towards doing it themselves, but with the use of YouTube material or social media materials. Okay, so how to make a pork belly, how to fix your bicycle, all of those things. Whereas in the past, it's a thing where if you wanted to learn how to bat, kick a ball, play rugby, there was a person that was present. He was the father. And the father would do these things with you. And he would do it in such a way that he would try to make it fun and exciting. Even if he didn't know how to kick a ball himself, he would do it. But he would do it in a fun and exciting way.
Okay. Now, here's my gripe with that whole thing. If you are YouTubing something, right, you learn how to do it as good as you can. I mean, without the father or whatever. And a lot of people have to resort to that if they don't have a father, their father's absence. Can they not still be a responsible man through learning from YouTube?
Well, they can.
And so, is it necessarily a bad thing that because part of your definition of traditional is autonomy, exactly.
Right. Through autonomy is important. It's what you're learning that's a problem.
Yeah.
Right? So if I as a single traditional man, right, want to learn how to do certain things, then of course I would have to learn by instruction. But I want to learn how to make something useful. It has to be useful in my life. But if you're going to give me these 5-minute crafts that I'm never going to use in my time, and I'm actually looking at that, what have I learned? Nothing. Nothing traditional in that aspect as well.
Yeah, because
So it's a balance there.
yeah, it is.
It's what you use technology.
Because think about it. Every father and every responsible individual, there comes a time when you also need to be proactive. And being proactive is also, if your dad's not at home, I'm not saying go and start a fire on YouTube. I will never encourage a child to do that. But if the child can see, okay, I see this, the nut is loose. Okay, let me go into YouTube to find out what spanner size I can use in order to tighten the nut.
Perfect.
Then
So-
the father's gonna be happy because you're showing initiative. But if you're putting yourself in a line of fire, figuratively speaking, or in danger, that is not showing. That is now from the top, either telling you don't play with matches, and you defying it, or the top not telling you that, and you don't know. I once got burnt with a pot baking popcorn, and my father said to me, "Whatever you do, don't ever put this. You can make popcorn when I'm here. Don't do it on your own." And I was about 8 or 9. My father wasn't at home, and he told me, because it was burnt and there was this awful smell. Now, could you imagine if I actually went and made a fire in the back and I caused the Project X burn half the neighborhood down?
So I think those are things that technology must be used in moderation, number one. Number two, technology must be used to learn something useful. If you're not learning anything useful, then whatever you are doing is useless. Yeah.
Okay.
So I think before we close, I think we have about a minute left. You had a plan or a theme or the topic for the next episode, and seeing as though you're not going to just be doing the spanner in the works, you're also going to be an active member of this little podcast that we're going through.
Well, my membership is upgrading.
Yes. What is the theme that you want to talk about?
Oh, there's too many that I have.
Maybe pick one.
I honestly, on the spot, can't pick one. Can't pick
the
one.
spot,
On the spot.
Yes.
We could move into dating
Right.
and how men are in that sphere and what should be.
Okay, so in our next episode, we are going to be talking about, or we're going to try and define dating in some way.
So modern day dating.
Modern day dating in that aspect. And for the meantime, thank you both for being here. Shady, thank you for your insight. And to the listeners, thank you for your time. And we'll see you in the next one.
Thanks, Adip. Cheers, guys.